In this demonstration, I'll show you how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide using the rules of significant digits. This is part 1 of the series. To be successful here, make sure you know how to round numbers and how to count the correct number of significant digits. And I do have 2 videos dedicated to these subjects. Let's start with the rules. When adding or subtracting, your final answer needs to be the same number of decimal places as the number in the question with the least decimal places. Also, when multiplying or dividing, your final answer has to have the same number of significant figures as the number in the question with the least significant figures. And we'll use both of these rules with the questions that we have. Let's start with question number 1. The question reads, evaluate and round your answer. So in our first question, we have 25 times 13. This has 2 significant figures, and so does this. So our final answer, whatever it is, has to have 2 significant figures. Let's go ahead and use our calculator. 25 times 13 gives us 325. So we know our final answer has to have 2 significant figures. So everything after this 2 will be discarded. Now, this number is a 2, and this number that's being discarded is a 5, and it's followed by nothing. Given that this 2 is even, that 2 is going to stay the same. So the number we end up with is 320. Notice that the number 320 has 2 significant figures. This last 0 isn't counted as a significant figure. And if you want to know why, review the video on significant figures. Let's move on to question B. Now in this question, the number with the least number of decimals is this one. So our final answer, whatever it is, has to have only 1 decimal. Everything after will be rounded, discarded as well. So let's use our calculator. 3.669 plus, adding these up and we get 116.029. Let's write the whole number down. 116.029. So what we're going to do is discard everything after this 0. Now everything after that 0 is a 2 and a 9, and unfortunately that 2 is less than 4, so our final answer becomes 116.0. Let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2 asks, perform the operation 5.97 times 30.0 and write the solution in scientific notation using the correct number of significant digits. So let's start off with the obvious. Let's multiply these 2 numbers out. 5.97, and we end up with 179.1. 179.1. And we know our final answer has to have a total of 3 significant figures because this has 3 and this has 3. So there's no disputing. It has to have 3. Now, since we have to reduce this down to 3 significant figures, everything after this 9 will be discarded. So that 1 is gone. Now, since 1 is less than 4, we end up rounding this to 179, and that's our final answer, except they ask us to write it in scientific notation. Now, if you don't know how to write numbers in scientific notation, I also have a video dedicated to that. Here's how you do it. You put a decimal place in between the first and the second number, and then you multiply that number by as many tens as required to bring it back to its original. So if I multiply this only by 10, I end up with 17.9. If I multiply it by 2 tens, or in other words, 1.79 times 10 to the power of 2, I end up with 179. In our final example, we are asked to add 18 plus 32.40 plus 6.10 and write the solution in scientific notation using the correct number of significant figures. 18 plus 32.40 plus 6.10. And our answer is 56.5. Now, this number here has 2 significant figures. This one has 4 and this one has 3. Now, when it comes to adding, we go back to this rule which says that your final answer needs to have the same number of decimal places as the number in the question with the least. Now, unfortunately, the one with the least is 18, so our final answer needs to be truncated, needs to be cut off right after that decimal. Now, the number after this 6, that first discarded number, is a 5. And this number is even, which means that you end up with 56 as your final answer. That 6 doesn't go up because there's no number after the 5. If there was a number after the 5, anything between 1 and 9, then yes, this would go up. Now we still need to put this in scientific notation. Just like before, you put a decimal in between the first and the second number, and you multiply this by 10, and that's it. 10 to the power of 1 if you would like, but that's the extent of it. And you'll notice that I haven't included any examples on division or subtraction, and when you end up doing questions with division and subtraction, they're the same rules, and we will cover more examples in part 2. If you found this tutorial helpful, please support our channel by subscribing or by liking this video. If you have any further questions, visit our website at studyforce.com. We're an online service for students seeking free homework help. See you soon.